Welcome to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. And as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you on this President's Day night?
Doing good, man. You must be happy with a week off.
Yeah,
Ish.
but then it means I'm busy with New England Football Journal stuff and other things. So,
True.
but it is a welcome reprieve from the youth of America and getting a break from them. And it's also a welcome break for them as well. They could do without us as well. So I guess it's mutually beneficial to say the least. Now, before we do get the conversation started, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got Patriots, big Boston College news from earlier this morning. We've got some UMass news in terms of local recruits. Talk a little bit of college football across the board, and then some high school hires as well. It's been ramping up here the last couple of weeks on the high school front in terms of hires. So we'll get into some of the hires that were made over the course of the past week as well. But before we do all of that, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you're currently in the market to sell your current home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 28 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know-how to guide you through this process. With the spring real estate season around the corner, now is the time to get that kind of experience in your corner. Again, give Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846, or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Stone, all is quiet on the Patriots front, if you will, until next week anyway, when the combine kicks off and the assembled media from the area embarks upon Indianapolis to meet with Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf. They will be speaking at some point early next week, but this is kind of a down week and in between week from last week when the season ended. Of course, last Tuesday was the last media availability of the 2025 season. We're on to 2026. A lot of big decisions to be made with this Patriots franchise in regards to who comes back, who doesn't. One of the key storylines, of course, is Stephon Diggs. Is Stephon Diggs going to be back in 2026? He is scheduled to make $26 million, or a maximum amount of $26 million in salary. He did have a court hearing last week for his case against a former chef who is suing him. Of course, he allegedly put his hands on her. That's a whole nother issue. But simple question here for you, Stone. Do you see any scenario where Stephon Diggs is back with the New England Patriots in 2026? On the surface right now, doesn't look like he's going to be.
If the money's lower, yes. So probably not. He just had a really good year for a guy coming off an ACL on the wrong side of 30. He's going to want to get paid one more time. I don't think it's going to be here. And with the off the field stuff, it was kept to a minimum, I guess you could say, while he was here, but you had something in the offseason. You had something late in the season when the team was trying to focus on a playoff run. So given the age, given the fact that he disappeared in the playoffs, and given the fact that there's sort of always something there, look, I asked Drake May last Tuesday at that press conference, how much you're looking forward to building off of what you and Steph Diggs had this year. And he said Steph talked to him a lot about being able to attack this offseason, from a receiver standpoint, not just from a rehab standpoint. So do you take the risk that, if you don't sign him back, he balls out for another team? Maybe, but
Well, it's not signing him back. He's under contract. I mean,
no,
the
sure,
Patriots obviously have to pick up
yes,
it's basically three separate options, but in theory he's under contract. It's
yeah,
really what do they want to do in
right,
regards to him coming back. Again, I think the question here is, do you pay him the 26 million? Truth be told, he's not worth that. He caught
no.
85 passes, barely had over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdown passes. He's in his early 30s.
I think he had
It's
six.
natural moving forward now to expect regression, and that's why I think ultimately this is a topic of conversation. Is he that type of player anymore? Is he quote unquote an elite receiver? He's not, in my opinion. I think he improved it last year. He disappeared once again in the playoffs. I think he had 100 yards receiving in 4 playoff games. Like,
Yeah,
you got to get a lot more out of this dude if you're going to pay him that kind of money.
I was going to say, I think he had 6 catches in the
Yeah,
playoffs and 1 touchdown. It
yeah.
was a great grab against Houston, but other than that, he was a no-show in
He
the
did
Super
nothing.
Bowl.
Which, by the way, it's kind of been his career pattern. He
Yeah.
fades down the stretch. He did it even in his prime in Buffalo. We saw it again here this year. He faded down the stretch.
Now, do you feel like, I should say, does the team feel like this receiving room still needs him? You saw how he kind of took them on and sort of mentored all of them, Booty and Douglas and Williams and even Efton Chisholm last year. Again, we talked about it a lot. You could see it in OTAs how much he meant to that room. So does that play a factor too? It's got to a little bit, but between the age, the lack of production in the playoffs, and the headaches off the field, I don't see why you bring him back.
Well, I look. If I were a betting man, I would say he's probably not going to be back. But I will say this, and I think it's an important point. I'm not so sure they don't want him back. I know that there's a lot of chatter out there about Alec Pierce, free agent from the Colts, who I think ultimately ends up back there. AJ Brown, of course. There's talk today that he could be had for a cheaper price than people think, and all this other stuff. I'm not saying I don't think the Patriots want him back. I truly believe, Kevin, that at the right price, the Patriots would want him back.
I
The
agree.
problem is, what is the right price? And like we said, it's certainly not going to be at his potential cap number of 26 million. He's going to have to be willing to restructure and work with them in order to be back. And I think he will be willing to do that to a point. The question is, where's the line of demarcation? How far is he willing to go to work with them to come back? I'm not so sure he's going to want to meet them at the place that they're going to want in order to bring him back.
No, I'm with you, but um, you also have to think about the continuity. Drake May talked a lot in that last press conference about being excited about being in the same offense for his second year. He openly said, it felt like my rookie year at times this year, getting into a new offense. So you wonder if having all of those pieces back might play into it too. You never know.
Yeah, again, I think if the two sides can work something
Yeah,
out,
it's all about the
I
money.
think Diggs will be back. By and large, from what I saw, and I think you would agree, you were there more than I was. He seemed like a good teammate. He bought in. He believed in Mike Vrabel. He said after the AFC Championship game that Mike Vrabel was the best coach he's ever played for. He said all of the right things. I think he would want to be back. And I think to a degree, Stephon Diggs realizes that he's not going to have as many suitors as he would have 2, 3, 4 years ago. Heck, he didn't have that many suitors 2 years ago when he signed with Houston. So I rather than when Houston traded for him. So I think it's one of those things where he's going to want to be back. They're going to have to come up with a number that works for both sides ultimately. And I think if that number does, he is back. If that number doesn't work out, though, now they're going to be in the market for another receiver. And now, of course, the whole A.J. Brown, Tennessee, Vrabel relationship piece comes up now. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles want to part ways with A.J. Brown. I really don't. Even though he had kind of become a headache for them this past season, I still don't see a scenario where they want to part ways with him. If they did, certainly the Patriots would express some interest. There'll be some other options out there. Mike Evans is a free agent. He could be a possible option. Alec Pierce keeps coming up because he would be ideal potentially. He's a second contract guy. He'd be a really good system fit. He'd give him a vertical threat, especially in plus territory. He would check off a lot of boxes. But I do think first and foremost, they're going to try to figure this out with Diggs. And if they can, they'll retain him and bring him back. But if they cannot, then obviously they're going to part ways and move on. And I'm sure Diggs will latch on somewhere else. He still has enough gas left in the tank that he can play somewhere else. It's just a matter of where that would be. But nonetheless, as far as the Patriots are concerned, I do think it's a situation where, you know what? I think it's going to be a wait and see situation. They're going to have to wait and see whether or not he's willing to work with them in terms of negotiating a more favorable contract for the team. Patriots are slated to have about 40, $42 million in cap space. There's enough cap space there that they could potentially make some moves here. One of the big moves they're going to have to make is what do they do with Caleb Chason? Of course, Chason is a guy who is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Had a heck of a year, signed a 1 year deal, 7.5 sacks this past season. He's in his prime. Do you re-sign him? Is he a guy that you would invest in and re-sign?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been on this for weeks, if not months now, 100%. He came out of nowhere and flashed for you. as a pass rusher. Now, look, if you want to trade for Max Crosby, you don't necessarily need to sign Caleb Von Jason, but um, you have much better odds, I think, of finding a common ground and a good deal with Caleb Vaughn, who has already said he wants to sign back. So, yeah, I think he should be a priority if their top priority is not Max Crosby. And I don't think it's going to be. I do think keeping the guys in house, and I also think getting Gonzalez done is going to be top of mind this offseason, too.
Yeah, I think getting Gonzalez done is going to be a priority, but I think Caleb Von Chason should be a priority too. Like, look, Harold Landry really struggled down the stretch after he injured his knee against the Saints. He
And
wasn't the
he
same player.
and he's on
Got
the
off to
wrong
a
side
really
of
good
30.
start the first 4 weeks. He wasn't that guy after that knee injury. Chason was really their most consistent pass rusher, and in a lot of ways, their most consistent edge defender. Now, look, you're probably looking at 3 years, 39 million to bring him back. I think that's a reasonable number. It's going to be an obvious pay increase for him. I do think, given the production and where the edge market is, it's probably where he slots. I would make every effort to bring him back. I think it would make sense to bring him back. I think ultimately what it comes down to for the Patriots is, do you want to go into that neighborhood within 13, 15 million a year? I think if you do, I think you get him back. Another guy before we get to Christian Gonzalez, of course, is Jalen Hawkins. What do you do with him? He had a terrific season. He's also an unrestricted free agent. He's another guy, man, that I think they need to bring back. He's a really good fit. He's a guy that's earned his starting role here. He earned it on special teams. He grinded to get it. I think he's a guy that's worth paying more and bringing back. He obviously fits the system, plays well next to Craig Woodson. He's another player that I think Patriot fans would welcome having back in the fold.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch the clips from the Super Bowl when Vrabel was talking to guys individually, he stopped Hawkins and goes eye to eye with him, and you could just kind of tell he felt like Vrabel was treating him like a future leader on this team, and I think he could be in that secondary, especially if for whatever reason you don't have Gonzalez. If you do, great, you have multiple leaders. But I could see Hawkins. You know, you and I have both talked to him after games. He's not outgoing per se, but he'll say what needs to be said. And he was always ready to talk as well. So I do think Vrabel might view him as a leader for that secondary and for that defense going forward too.
Yeah, I agree. And Christian Gonzalez is going to be an interesting one now. Now, what do you pay him? I think when you look at a potential extension for him, it starts with Derek Stingley's extension in Houston, Patrick Surtain the second's extension in Denver. Surtain's was almost $100 million, I believe. He got 4 years at 96. Gonzalez is going to come in at a higher number than that. Question is, how high do you go though? You're probably looking at a 4 year deal, but you're potentially looking at anywhere from 105, 110, maybe even 115 million on the value of the contract. To some people, that might be a little rich, but when you go back to that Super Bowl, and that's all he and his agent have to point to, that game, he proved that he's a top three, top five corner in this league, and he's going to get paid as such.
That play before halftime, we were sitting in that end zone. That's one of the best plays I've ever seen live. He made up so much ground in such a short amount of time. Even that deep ball too. So, look, you know, I've been of the sort of on that, I don't know if I pay him train. He shut me up for good in that Super Bowl. You need him. And it's wild that he's only 23 years old. Like he's only going to get better. And he's talked about becoming more of a leader as well, talking about Hawkins and Jason maybe being future leaders. He should be the leader of this defense for another, what, 5, 10 years. So you got to get that done this offseason.
No, you do. You do. And look, you need core guys that are superstars. Drake May has the potential to be a superstar. He didn't play like it in the playoffs, but at one point this season, we thought Will Campbell could be a franchise cornerstone. You've got a couple of those guys, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. Christian Gonzalez is in that group. He fits that conversation. He's a franchise cornerstone. It's not going to be affordable, but you're going to have to pay him if you want him to come back. He's one of the best in the game. You need him. He's a lockdown corner. I don't see how they don't pay him and bring him back. I don't think they have a choice. I think at the end of the day, extend him now, take the hit. They've got the cap space to do it, and the deal wouldn't kick in until after next year anyway. Why don't you get it done this offseason? He extend him a year early, get him in the fold, and know you've got him for another 4 or 5 years. And now you've got a core foundational piece there, along with Drake May, possibly Will Campbell, Milton Williams, that you can continue to build around. Those guys are going to be the centerpieces of your roster. But make no mistake about it, Christian Gonzalez is an elite playmaking cornerback. He needs to get paid as such. I think it happens this offseason. I don't think the Patriots are going to go on some wild shopping spree like they did last year. I think that they're going to start to get their ducks in a row to pay Gonzalez, and then a couple of years down the road, pay May. That payday could potentially come as early as next offseason. So
So
I think it's a situation where they're going to spend some money in free agency, and they're going to trim this roster. They're going to free up more money. They're not running it back with this roster as we knew it in 2025. And I think that's going to be one of the ways they're going to be able to pay Gonzalez and free up some money to potentially bring in some other free agents.
So I just want to ask you, when he was dealing with the injury stuff in training camp, did you think he would have the season that he had? Like, will you
Yes,
team pay him right out of the gate?
yes,
Okay.
I did. I did. I thought he would have the year he had. I think he's elite. I think he's top three at his position. I think he's one of the three best corners in the league right now. Yes. And he struggled at times, especially in man coverage this season.
Yeah.
But down the stretch, he played at an elite level. He played at a high level. He was a difference maker. I mean, again, he erased Jackson Smith and Jigba. Seattle did a lot of things well in that Super Bowl and earned that win. One of the things they didn't do well was get him the ball. And the reason they didn't get him the ball is because Gonzalez erased Jackson Smith and Jigba. He was a non-factor in that game. And in my opinion, the bulk of that falls on Gonzalez. He did a great job when he was matched up on him, taking him out of that game. So we could sit here and hem and haw over 10, 15, $20 million. We could sit here and argue whether or not he's worth it. He's worth every penny, man. He's an elite playmaker in his position. He's top five. You got to pay him as such.
No, I was just curious. I couldn't remember what we had talked about back in, August after this long run. But admittedly, again, I was not ready to pay him right away, especially dealing with the stuff he dealt with early on. And it felt like him and Vrabel kind of clashed a little bit. But for whatever reason, or I shouldn't say whatever reason, however he did it, Vrabel sort of became, I don't know if buddies is the right word with Gonzalez, but, when he was asked about him in press conferences, Gonzalez would acknowledge, yeah, look, he's a wise ass, but I respect him and I play hard for him. So that's hard to do coming into a new situation like Vrabel did. So, yeah, no, I was not team pay him, but it's hard to argue now after that Super Bowl.
Well, I don't see how, again,
They
I
have
don't approach any of these things like I own the team. So I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't team pay him. I mean, you're going to have to pay him. If you want elite playmakers, and this is true in any sport, you need to compensate them. And at the end of the day, he's one of the best at his position. You want to keep him around here, you're going to have to pay him. It's just that simple. I don't think Patriot fans or the Patriots themselves can look at this any other way other than he's good enough, he's worth it, pay the man. I think if they get into the weeds with him and they start to try to nickel and dime him, I think that's a huge mistake. Just pay the guy.
So not only would that be a bad look for the locker room that you just won back over, but all the goodwill you built up with the fan base, you're gonna let him walk now? You can't do that. And I know you don't look at it from the fan, you look at it from the business side, but just in that regard, you cannot lose the goodwill that's been brought back over these last 2 years or so.
No, and I think they're going to get it done. And he's going to be the highest paid corner in the league. He may end up being the highest paid corner in the history of the league. But at the end of the day, they're going to get it done, as they should. Like I said, he proved in the Super Bowl that he would be worth every penny. And again, I know that that's hard for people to fathom, a 4-year deal where this guy's making 25, 30 million a year. But at the end of the day, when you look at that as a premium position in the league, he's going to be worth it. You are watching the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Just a reminder, if you're looking to enter the market right now and you're looking to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846, or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. And of course, as I mentioned to start the show, NFL Combine begins next week. The Combine itself is February 26th through March 1st, but we expect both Mike Vrabel, and Elliot Wolf to speak next week to the assembled media. I thought one of the things that Mike Vrabel said last Tuesday in his final meeting with the media was he talked about how he told the team that, hey, we've laid a foundation here now, and we're building a house, and now we have to add another level to the house. We have to continue to build the house. You're going to be building that house without some of these guys next year. Some of these guys are going to be gone. If I had to ask you off the top of your head, who are three veterans that were on this football team this season that either started or were key contributors, who are three veterans that you see them moving on from? Who would you say?
Well, Diggs and Barmore come to mind immediately. Third one, I'd have to think a little bit. But those two, I think Barmore is probably 1A and Diggs 1B. You got me stuck on a third one, though. But overall, I think those two are the two biggest kind of names that probably come up right away.
I'm not so sure they move on from Barmore. I know it's easy to say that because of his legal troubles. He played really well, and he's a
No, he
really
did.
good fit in this scheme. And unless his legal troubles are worse than we think, and they were obviously aware of everything that had happened because
Mhm.
what happened, his incident with his girlfriend happened in August. The team said that they knew about it when it happened. So it wasn't news to them when it broke in December. They stood by him. Now, again, I don't know if they're going to be able to stomach it enough to do it again, but they did stand by him. And I think that that's the important part here is that if you stood by him all season long and you stood by him through the playoffs, unless new information comes out or he does something else this offseason, there's a good chance you could stand by him enough to bring him back and work with him and try to help him so that he could be a better player and a better citizen. Um, I would be surprised if they moved on from him. I think if they did, he might end up being in a deal
Well,
to bring
so
a
yeah,
player back. I don't see them outright cutting him. Of
no,
course, one of the players that they keep being linked to is Max Crosby, who I've been on record as saying I'm not paying that Micah Parsons-esque asking price for Max Crosby. I'm sorry, I'm just not. But if the Patriots are more than likely going to be in on Crosby, assuming he's put on the market by the Raiders, could Barmore potentially be one of the pieces that goes back in that deal? We'll see.
yeah. And so I was gonna say I had more. I wasn't even thinking cut. I was thinking part of a deal, mostly for Crosby. The only reason I'd be in on Crosby, not to go off on the Crosby tangent, is because that draft pick is so late in the first round this year. I know we've both been on team draft and building through the draft, but who knows if it's going to get 31 again? You know what I mean? So I do like the idea of that. But in terms of Barmore, look, I love him and Milton Williams back together again. But I feel like the whole thing with, getting pulled over last year and then the crap this year, the stuff in the locker room where he just goes off sometimes. Obviously, you and I were there for in New Jersey in the Jets locker room when he lost his mind to Mark Daniels. Like, he's not all there, man. And I know you need some crazy in that league, but um, I just feel like there's a boiling point there. And I feel like they're about to reach it with him. I hope I'm wrong, but again, because I would love him and Williams another year together. You saw them talking in that Super Bowl highlight thing. They could be a menace to other offenses, but just something is off about Barmore to me and sort of his standing with the team.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I have a hard time believing if your goal is to build off of this season, which it obviously is,
Yeah, you need
and your
him.
goal is to get back to a Super Bowl. Well, you need as many talented players as you could possibly roster. He's one of them. So unless something new comes to light about what happened last August, or he gets into trouble this offseason, I'm not looking to move him. And if I'm going to move him in a Max Crosby trade, it better be him and either the 31st pick or him in a second round pick. But that's it. I'm
Yeah,
not giving them any more than that. Because if you're them, you're going to get an impact player that you can plug in the middle of your defense. And now you're going to get a pick that you can use to potentially replace him, i.e., Crosby, with pick 31. And of course, when you look at the edge rushers in this upcoming draft, that's one of the deeper, more talented groups of this draft. So, I mean, again, I don't see them moving off of him. Stranger things that have happened, and as you know, a lot of this stuff ultimately is driven by money, right? If they're looking to shed salary so that they could position themselves to extend Gonzalez and put some money aside to potentially extend May down the road, then yes, they're going to try to move on from some of these big contracts. And look, they're going to have some questions on a lot of guys on this roster right now. What do you do with a Garrett Bradbury? What do you do with a Harold Landry? Those guys are going to be potentially in play. A Christian Ellis, who's slated to make 7.3 million next season. What do you do with those guys? Because you've got a lot of big contracts on the books. And if you're serious about extending Gonzalez and extending May down the road, let's say Campbell bounces back, extending him down the road. If you're serious about doing that and reshaping this roster, you're going to have to get some of this money off your books.
Well, one other name too, and I think we might have mentioned him last week. He's not a true veteran per se, but Pop Douglas. They got to figure something out with him as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I think the problem with him is
The
the
money's telling
production
him.
hasn't been there, man.
Yeah.
You're going into the final year of his deal. Production hasn't been there. Another guy to keep an eye on is Michael Onwenu. What do you do with him? You're going into the
Yeah.
final year of his deal. He's slated to make $25 million. You do you bring him back at that number? Sure. He was arguably your best offensive lineman last year. That being said, though, if you ideally can extend him and spread some of that money out now, give him a couple more years now. You give him what amounts to a 3-year deal, and you spread some of that money out, and that gives you a savings of 8 to 10, 11, 12 million dollars, then you do that as well. I think he's more of an extension candidate than anything else. I know some people have speculated, right, well, what do you do with Morgan Moses? You're not doing anything with him. He's 8 million a year. He's serviceable. You can get another year out of him. Maybe next offseason we have that conversation. I would be surprised if they did anything with him. But I think ultimately what this comes down to is they, as usual, right? It's a numbers circus. You got to play with the numbers every offseason. You got to move pieces around financially in order to free up the requisite cap space to improve your roster. Obviously, the Patriots aren't going to fully run this thing back. There's going to be some changes, and they are going to move some guys. All right, let's shift gears here and now talk some college football. Big day locally, of course, for Boston College as they offered Xaverian quarterback Will Wood. I had an opportunity to speak to Will tonight, and he did tell me what was already out there, that Bill O'Brien personally made the offer to him. He told him that Boston College was going to be vigilant in terms of recruiting him, and that the goal was to get him to come to Boston College and eventually develop into a starting quarterback. A lot of people around here have asked this, Kevin, why did it take him so long? And I think that that's a very fair question. Bottom line is, I think once they started to see Washington and Penn State and a couple of SEC schools showing interest, once Boston College saw that, I think they felt we got to go in on him and offer him. And ultimately, Bill O'Brien offered him. Couple of things here. One, I'm surprised it took them this long to offer him. But two, the other thing is, Bill O'Brien offered him, not Jonathan DiBiase, not another member of the staff. I thought that was pretty interesting. It almost seems like O'Brien took over his recruitment and said, you know what? I'm offering him. I want him here. And he made the phone call.
100%. First of all, what took so long? I think we were asked that for weeks, if not months, and we didn't have an answer. Obviously, we're not in the building, but look, he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the state right now, right? Peter Bullock, Chris Vargas, and Will Wood. Right? Am I wrong there?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
So the question why it took so long, none of us have an answer for it, but better late than never. And it's as far as Bill O'Brien, offering him personally, that is a yes, we generally want you. This is not lip service type of thing. And look, is DiBiase offering him going to be lip service? No, of course not. Is Kenyatta Watson going to be lip service? No. It's a GM offering him. But I think there's something to the head coach, the local guy offering the local kid that kind of stands out. I think that was done on purpose, as it should have been. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but I think that just it speaks volumes to the kid more than anything else about the the want from the program, because the kid hears the whispers about where's the BC offer. How can he not? Especially the schools you mentioned, excuse me, when they're on him already. Um, and there's a lineage there with Hasselbeck, not going to BC as well after winning a Super Bowl. Um, it's a fair question, and I think he heard it. It's hard not to. So I think O'Brien making that offer, it stands out, and it should stand out to Wood. He's going to have a lot more offers coming down the pike from a lot more bigger name programs. I tweeted this out today. Again, he's the top 3 quarterback in Massachusetts. Those offers are going to be coming in fast and furious. BC is smart to get in now. Should have been in earlier.
He'll get more offers. I mean, I don't know. He's a junior, so he will
Yeah.
get more offers. It'll be interesting to see how many more offers. A lot of that will depend on what his spring and summer looks like and what
Of
he
course.
does in the showcase camp
Well, I
circuit.
was
I
just going to
think
say the showcase is
that will
coming up.
determine how many more he gets as well. He's going to get more, but this idea that he's going to blow up, I think he's past that point. I think he's going to end up with a large number of offers.
Yeah.
If you're Boston College, I don't think this is going to come down to when BC offered him. Will
In the
doesn't
long run,
care.
no.
I think in Will's eyes, they offered him. That's how
Yep.
he's going to look at it. I don't think he's going to say, "Well, they didn't offer me until February of my junior year going into my senior year." He's not going to look at it that way. And I do think there's going to be a pull there for him. I think that the
Oh, yeah.
pull of playing 25 minutes from home, grew up going to Boston College games. I think there's going to be a pull there. And for a lot of Massachusetts kids, as much as people look at Peter Bork and his commitment to Michigan and they say, well, those top end kids don't want to play here, I still think there's an allure there with Boston College. I still think that the local kids, especially the local kids that might have been around the program, I think there's a pull there for them to play at Boston College. I do think, I'm not saying Will's going to commit to Boston College. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is Boston College is going to be in the running. They're going to be one of his 3 teams that it's going to come down to. It's just a matter of, does he see himself at the heights? Does he think he has an opportunity to develop under Bill O'Brien and eventually start? Or will he have to seek that opportunity elsewhere? I don't think in the case of Will Wood, it's going to come down to playing in front of 100,000 people. I think he's perfectly fine playing in front of 35, 40, 45,000 people.
Yeah.
I think it's more going to be about his development and an opportunity to play down the road.
Well, and I guess this isn't just a question for Will, but any quarterback recruit that they go out and offer. Do you think what they do this year with the 2 kids they brought in, Mason McKenzie and name is escaping me right now, I apologize, but the 2 quarterbacks they brought in, how they developed, do you think that matters to recruits this year? Or can they look at it as, well, I can go be the guy now? That type of thing.
I don't. No, I don't think a recruit's going to look at how they develop Mason McKenzie and make a decision on that. I don't think
Yeah.
that's going to happen. I think what it comes down to ultimately, look, if I'm Boston College, you for 2 years now, since Bill O'Brien has been here, you've recruited quarterbacks outside of the region predominantly. Okay, it's you needed to offer this kid. You've offered Christopher Vargas, but then again, everybody and their mother is
Right.
going to offer Christopher Vargas. That's a given. Okay. Will Wood was the one that I think people looked at and said, okay, you offered Vargas, everybody's going to offer Vargas. So, in a lot of ways, that didn't count to people around here. But I think people looked at this and said, are you going to offer this kid? Because this kid is that fringe kid. But you're talking about a kid who's 6'2, 220. He's probably, by the time he's done, he's probably going to be pushing 6'3. Size is not going to be an issue. He's tough as hell, 4-year starter in high school, put up big numbers. He's a winner. You go back to that boot keep on 4th down to seal the deal. I mean, again, that's big time stuff, man. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people looked at this and said, don't tell me that there's kids in other parts of the country that are 3-star quarterbacks that are that much better than this kid or even better than him. Go out and recruit him and give him an offer and give the kid a shot. And I think ultimately, again, this is why I asked you. I find it interesting that O'Brien was the one that extended the offer. And I'm not trying to stir the pot here or say that there's, disagreement on the staff or dissension. All I'm saying is
No.
I think Bill O'Brien sees something in this kid. And I think in a lot of ways, if you're Boston College, this is a smart move on many fronts. It's a smart move from a player standpoint, but I also think it's a smart move from a PR recruiting standpoint because this is a kid that we all universally agree should have been offered by Boston College a long time ago. I listen, they heard the noise. Don't think Kenyatta Watson isn't playing a role in this either. I think at the end of the day, they recognized we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. This kid's really good. He's in our backyard. He's good enough to play here. We got to offer him. We got to be in the mix for him. And it helps that all of a sudden now Penn State's being thrown around. Now Matt Campbell is rumored to be interested in potentially offering him. So when that happens, that tends to rattle enough cages around here that Boston College reacts.
Well, I think hell, even Stanford offering him back whenever they
Yeah.
did a couple months
It's
ago.
an ACC school.
Yeah, that kind of lit the fire right there. Just two more quick things on him. One, he owed dual Vargas in that game at Gillette. For the first 3 quarters, I would say, he completely beat him. Now, Vargas had a couple bad turnovers, but he outdueled him on the biggest stage at Gillette. So that's something to just kind of keep in the back of your mind as you go forward and you watch these two kids develop. Obviously, Vargas is 28, but even still. And then the second thing on O'Brien calling him, I think it's the opposite of dissension with the program. I think it's, hey, we're all in on this kid. Let me call him. And not only that, to your point
But
about
and I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that there's dissension on the staff. I
no,
didn't say
no,
that.
neither one of us.
What I'm
No.
saying is, I think O'Brien. I put it out there to you. Do you think O'Brien calling him is him putting his own touches on the kid's recruitment,
100%.
or is he doing it because he's saying this is my call? I want to recruit him regardless of what some people on my staff might think.
So I actually think it's both.
I'm
It
not
could be
looking to
both.
stir the pot here. I
No.
think it's a very fair question.
No, I completely agree. But I'm with you. I don't think either one of us want to be shit stirrers. But
Well, you're pretty good at it. You
well,
talk out of your rear end a lot.
that's true. What was I gonna say? No, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's him hearing the noise about losing out on local recruits and not wanting to lose out on arguably the best quarterback in the state for this class, and then B, making sure the kid knows, hey, we're all in on you. This isn't just your standard recruiting. Talk to our QB coach, talk to the GM. No. This is me. Who, by the way, they still don't have an OC. I think it's going to be him. I think you feel the same way.
Yeah, I said that to you from the beginning.
Yeah, people haven't really talked about that. And I've heard very little on the OC search. So him calling him and talking to him directly, I think it's a combination of, hey, we really want you, and B, I'm sick of losing out on local talent. So I think it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, again, it's more than just losing out on local talent. This is a kid that's been a no-brainer from the beginning.
Oh, God.
And the fact that it took this long, it doesn't make the most favorable impression for Boston College football. But nonetheless,
But I'm saying to your
it
point,
doesn't matter now. You offered
Yeah.
him, so
Yeah.
you move on. But Boston College is going to be in the mix for him. I really believe that the pull of playing closer to home, what's from Natick, I think that that's going to matter to him.
I was going to say,
And I think that that's going to put Boston College in the mix. Now, it ultimately comes down to who he visits, how those visits go, what is his relationship with some of these other coaches that are involved in his recruitment. All of that stuff will factor in. But I think on the surface, if you look at this objectively, Boston College is going to be in the mix for Will Wood services. The other thing that it's going to come down to, obviously, is NIL, and can he capitalize on his name, image, and likeness. And I think if he believes he can, I would be surprised if he doesn't ultimately commit to Boston College. I think that they do have an advantage here. Now it's a matter of how do you handle the rest of his recruitment and capitalize on that advantage if you're Boston College. Remember now, there is a lineage there. Boston College has recruited a lot of good players out of Xaverian Brothers High School. So there is a history there between the Boston College football program and Xaverian. You mentioned Stanford earlier. There's a history there too, Greg Camella. So, I mean,
yeah.
Again, I don't think it's going to be, it's not a fait accompli that Boston College is going to land Will Wood. But like I said, I think that they're going to be a strong contender to ultimately land his commitment. UMass picking up a couple of big lineman commitments, local lineman commitments this week. Gavin English, 2027 offensive lineman from Springfield Central, committed over the weekend. I got a chance to talk to Gavin, and I was really impressed with him and his maturity. And I think one of the things that he said was that he wants to be a part of the UMass rebuild, that he wants to be a part of that. That's important. That's not always something players say. They want to go somewhere where they can win football games, get developed and make money. For him to say that, hey, I know they have struggled of late, but I want to be a part of turning it around. I think that says a lot as well. And also, Jake McGrath from BBNN also committed yesterday. 6'7", 295 is a lot of size. There's some athleticism there. Offensive line coach Brian White has a piece of clay there that he can work with, but UMass really starting to make inroads this offseason locally with recruiting. Of course, we saw when they got commitments out of the portal from William Watson and Joe Griffin, but nonetheless, UMass is really, really making some hay around here.
It's hard to say that Watson and why did I just draw a blank? Watson and
Joe Griffin.
Jesus, thank you. Why Watson and Griffin?
How old are you, by the way?
38 in 3 weeks.
Jesus Christ.
I know it's bad, huh?
No, your memory is bad, man. It's.
I do think those two.
Your brain's turned to mush.
I know. I think those two joining the program generally help other local kids now. I really think there's a pull there.
I was a little surprised, though, that they didn't land Jaden Bass.
Yeah.
He entered the portal out of UConn. He ended up at URI. Now, they may not have recruited him either. We don't know the ins and outs there. But I thought for sure he would have been earmarked for Amherst as well to join Watson and Griffin.
No, I'm with you, but, those two aren't bad. I do think there's a genuine, you mentioned a kind of belief that we want to be part of something, which is crazy to think about, just given how bad it's looked. But I also think this is where a conference comes into play. You still have a conference title to chase, and you're going to be on national television. Regardless of how bad the program has been, you're still going to get plenty of ESPN exposure. I don't think you can undersell that for kids, especially from Massachusetts, looking to get their name out there. So I think it was sort of a combination of having those two elite Massachusetts guys already committed, and then other kids saying, well, hell, if they're going back, we can go. And it can't be the end of the world. And B, again, having that national exposure that comes with the conference. It was embarrassing last year, sure, but you're still getting actual exposure that you can't get really anywhere else unless you're in the SEC or ACC, whatever it might be. If you're only good enough or you're good enough to play in the MAC, UMass is your best bet right now if you're one of those kids. So I think it's a combination of both those things, really.
And of course, Sacramento State is going to be joining the MAC for the upcoming season.
Now the road trip.
They officially entered the league yesterday, so that'll be interesting. I can't believe that the newly formed Pac-12 or the Mountain West didn't take them in. It
I know.
Literally makes no sense to me that they had to go to the MAC, and it's going to be a short stay. They may only be in there 1 year before they end up moving to one of those two conferences, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting now with them in the MAC because that's a program that has a lot of resources. They've recruited well. They've done well in the portal, but the reality is you're talking about a 2,500 mile plane ride if you're UMass. It's not ideal that they're in the MAC, although I have enjoyed the budding rivalry that is the Ball Sack Bowl between Ball State and Sacramento State.
I saw that. That was pretty good. Was that busting with the boys that had that?
It was busting with the boys, and I think a couple of other people had it as well. UConn announced that their spring game, that's right, Jason Candle will be doing a spring game. We will have coverage of it, of course. Their spring game is slated for April 11th, so that is awesome. That is, it's great that they're doing it.
I didn't know we were still doing spring games around here. It's good to hear. I don't think UMass is it. We haven't heard anything on UMass, and of course, BC got rid of it last year for more of a spring scrimmage practice thing. But no, you're right. It's a good thing. I still think spring games for fans are most important, especially around here, because we can get families out there and getting them to know some of the guys and see some of the program. Yeah, there's an element of poaching, and that goes on everywhere. I think that's why BC ultimately did want to be.
Well, that's why a lot of people aren't doing them anymore.
Yeah, a ton of teams aren't doing it. But BC was obviously on ACC Network. You and I were there for that last one. There was like 50 people there. It's a really bad look.
Well, it's really
The school didn't
it's a
help either.
bad look, but in fairness, though, and this is not a knock on O'Brien,
Mhm.
that game has struggled for years now. Even
Oh,
when
years.
Hafley was here,
Yeah, yeah.
Adazio was here, the interest in that game has waned through the years.
That's a
They haven't
region
been
thing.
drawing good crowds for that spring game for years now.
No. And that wasn't putting that on O'Brien or his staff. That's a BC thing and just sort of a region thing
It's
in
also
general.
a weather thing. I mean, the weather
Of
sucks up
course.
here, man. It takes forever to warm up.
Yeah.
If it's a beautiful spring day that's in the, low to mid 60s, people are going to go to it.
Yep.
If it's one of those cold, raw April afternoons where it's 45, 50 degrees, people aren't going to go to it.
No, you're
And
right.
judging by this winter, I think it's going to take a while to warm up here. So you're even if you did have it this year, you probably wouldn't draw a huge crowd because again, a big part of it is I think it's the weather. And for a
Yeah.
while there, it was also on the same weekend as the NFL draft, which I
Yeah.
think it ran into that as well. They were smart enough to move it up, but it didn't matter. And look, at the end of the day, unfortunately, given the landscape of college football today, you can have a spring game, but you risk putting your players out there and them getting more exposure and then potentially getting opportunities to go play elsewhere, especially your second and third string guys. If they end up popping and having a good spring game, now all of a sudden people are sliding into their DMs
Yeah.
like a pro
Well,
athlete, with a hot 22-year-old, and next thing you know, they're gone.
no,
So you
and
had to
look,
think about that analogy there. I saw
no,
while he
no, I
was
did not
talking.
go it. I was trying to form my next sentence, but look, Jim Mora called that out plenty of times too. So he
Yeah,
dealt with it when he was there. I do think it's smart for Kendall though. New coach, new staff, new program.
yeah,
Let people
yeah.
see you. Let
I
fans
agree.
get
A
out there.
lot of new faces, and it's going to be a great opportunity for UConn fans to
Mhm.
get to know these guys.
And
So,
especially,
I mean,
yeah,
they'll have over 60 new guys that they're going to have to get to know. So,
and especially if the basketball programs do what they should be doing, they could be playing that weekend for all we know,
yeah,
and sort of make it a school wide, prideful thing.
yeah,
I would like to
yeah.
see
And I
BC.
think look for UConn fans. You're used to Fagnano, Edwards, Bell,
Yeah, no, none of them are there.
Price Yates, those guys, right? And I mean, it was a pretty steady core of guys there the last three
Yeah,
years. They're all gone now. And
yeah.
now there's a lot of names there that you don't know that you're going to need to get to know, and this is going to be your opportunity.
Well, and for that same reason, I would like to see BC do one this year. We haven't got word if they definitely aren't, but by all accounts,
Well, they're not as their spring schedule
I
is
was gonna
not
say, yeah.
showing that they are.
So,
So my
um,
guess would be they're not.
but again, for that same reason, BC having one this year probably would have been a good thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a big deal. But UConn not being in a conference, sort of needing to get themselves out there as much as possible, I do think it's smart for them to do one.
Speaking of local college football, five local college football players got an invite to the NFL Combine next week. From Boston College, you have Q Hutchins, Jude Bowery, Logan Taylor. From UConn, you have Joe Fagnano and Skylar Bell. Any thoughts on the five guys from the area that are going to be competing at the Combine next week?
Well, I'll start with a question first. You surprised Lewis Bond wasn't invited?
He
That
had a
was.
good week in Mobile,
That's
but
why I
I
was
can't
surprised.
say that I was that surprised.
Okay. I thought you might be. I was a little bit just because of that week he had in Mobile. He made a lot of guys look really bad at times. He had a really good week, but no, I think we all thought throughout the year Logan and Jude were their two most draftable guys. Since spring ball, I think we've talked about them sort of being those next OYNU draft picks to follow Ozzie and Drew last year. As far as Q goes, he was so fun to watch throughout his career at BC, especially this past year. You can't replace Donovan Ezeraku, but he did his damnedest. He was really good off the edge. And again, that guy had a huge week at Mobile. He had some highlight reel type moves on film. As far as Joe and Skylar, I can't wait to watch them. For the people that didn't follow UConn, again, look at Joe's stats from this year. It's stupid what he was able to do. And Skylar just went off. So those two guys, I think they're going to turn a ton of heads. And you might be hearing a lot about them coming out of Indy.
Yeah, and Fagnano's a guy that I look. I said this at the
You
end of
were on it
last
early.
season. Fagnano's a guy that could end up getting drafted, man. I know a lot of people think I was saying it being a New England homer, but I'm telling you, man, that size, 6'3", 2 1/4, live arm, can layer the ball, accurate vertically,
It was like
has some
45
nice
TDs and a
pocket
pick.
mobility where he can get out of the pocket and extend plays. I see a lot of Sam Darnold in his game, man. I see a lot of Sam Darnold in his game, and I'm telling you right now, Fagnano's the kind of player that could end up carving a 10, 12-year career for himself as a backup quarterback in this league who can step in and start for you if you need him and potentially win you some football games. I mean, I think that highly of the kid.
I'm looking at the stats right now. 28 TDs, one pick, almost 3,500 yards. Like, that's a phenomenal year with this offense. Yes, he had Skylar Bell, but it's still UConn. Like, this kid made a name for himself this year. And you're right, the arm is
So
big
two
enough.
really good years. It's not even this year
Yeah.
he was off the charts, but he had a really good year the year before too.
Well, and he kind of different playing styles and different sizes, but it reminds me of Max Brosmer in the sense of you might see him very early in his career in the NFL, to your point.
Yeah. We also unveiled that it was a couple weeks behind due to the Patriots playoff run, and unfortunately, just to compile these all-state, all-region teams is not easy. It's a lot of work, and you do your due diligence, and you want to do it right. But we did put out our 2025 Division One college all New England teams. Any surprises there? I mean, I thought, look, it was a great year for college football in New England. Not so much for Boston College and UMass, but UConn back-to-back trips to the Fenway Bowl, 9-win season. 5 FBS schools made the FBS playoffs. I'm sorry, FCS playoffs. It was a good year for New England college football, and it reflected on these all New England teams.
No surprises, but I think the kid who stood out to me the most this year was Josh Pitzenberger from Yale. Um, you are a big running game guy. You always have been since I knew you, but this kid was an absolute beast. And seeing him in person, especially in that Harvard Yale game, there were, and then the comeback in the playoffs as well. There were times where he legitimately was untackleable, and I'm not even sure if that's a word.
It's not.
Um,
You just made it up.
I probably did, but he was a legitimate beast on the field. But then you talk to him off the field, and he's just the nicest kid ever. He was one of my favorite athletes, I think, in the last few years to cover. He was awesome. Another Ivy League kid, Jaden Craig, for a couple years now, he was a stud. But I could see him making a name for himself next year when he enters the NFL draft. He transferred to I can't remember, but he's
TCU.
thank you. And he'll make a
You
name for
can't
himself.
remember. What a surprise.
It's shocking. But it's all Patriot stuff. Um, but no surprises really. To your point, Skylar Bell, the year he had, go look up his stats as well. Incredible. Lewis Bond had a record-breaking year. You wouldn't really know it around here. They were 2-10, but literally set records at BC that Zay Flowers had just set a few years ago. So historic seasons all around, really from FCS to FBS. And look, spring ball starts in like 2 weeks. Like it's already college football season again for us. So congratulations to every name that we had on that list. And um, there's probably a lot more surprise names to come the next few years.
And of course, switching gears here again, high school football, a lot of hires the last couple of weeks. Some of the local hires, Canton hiring Jeff Eckler, who was already on the staff there. He replaces Anthony Fallon, who unfortunately was let go because of an incident that happened during the season in which his name was cleared, but unfortunately the powers that be in Canton decided to move on. Anthony is a Canton guy, did a terrific job getting that program back on track after Dave Bohane had built it into a perennial playoff contender. Coach Eckler's already on the staff there, so he takes over for Coach Fallon. Dale Olmstead, a guy who's very familiar to local high school and college football fans. He's been a head coach of 18 years at Millis High School, Nichols College. He is the new head football coach at Braintree High School. Two really good hires there. Two hires that I think in many ways encapsulate how hard it is to find head coaching candidates nowadays. But when you get two quality candidates like that, you can't pass up on them. I think these are both terrific hires for those programs.
100%. And for me personally, besides you, you were the first head coach I ever interviewed as a paid writer. The second one was Dale Olmstead when he was at Millis and I was at the Metro West Daily News. And I'll never forget how much he helped me and how genuinely nice he was when I was absolutely scared crapless, not really knowing what I was doing. So I've always been rooting for him. It's good to see him back in the high school game around here. And I can't wait to personally cover him again. That'll sort of be full circle for me. I know you've known him forever, it seems like, but just a good dude. He was really good at Nichols as well. I had some friends on that Nichols team at the time who raved about him. So, and as far as the Canton job goes, I dealt with both of those guys last year. Both of them are stand-up guys. The team reacted equally to both of them after wins, especially that Mansfield game, I believe it was, that I covered for Canton after everything had sort of went down. I believe it was Mansfield. Night game.
Beat him for the first time in 30 years.
Thank you. I want to make sure I didn't get that messed up, but
it's the Patriots. That's all.
Well, no, that one I wanted to make sure. I knew I was at the game. At least I knew that. But
I mean, again, how are you 38? I mean, this is stuff
dude.
that 78, 88-year-olds do.
Believe me, I'm aware. But no, two good dudes and look, two good programs that are proud programs. We talk a lot about having coaches that either are from there and respect sort of the town pride, or knows what it means to be a high school, high school coach in Massachusetts. Both of these guys, they're not necessarily from there. Well, I know Olmsted isn't from Braintree, but they care. They care. They know what high school pride, playing for your town looks and sounds like. They're going to instill that in their team. So you're right. Two great hires for both sides.
Yeah, and in Connecticut, you had some hires as well. Waterford High School hiring Pat Doherty, who was on John Capodice's staff at Berlin. Terrific hire. Coach Doherty also coached at Wesleyan University. West Haven, keeping it in-house. They hired Tom Unger, who took over last year for Rich Boucher. He was the interim head coach, did a nice job leading the Blue Devils to a 5-5 season. He's a math teacher in the building, former head coach at Guilford. They elevate him to head coach, so congratulations to Coach Unger. And Jeremy Clark is returning to Woodland High School, who's coming off an impressive season. That job opened up. Coach Clark, who was at Derby, moves over to Woodland and takes over at Woodland. So some hires down in Connecticut as well. And of course, look, we do our due diligence to try to stay on top of all the coaching news in the offseason in high school. If you know of a coaching opening or a hire that we may have missed, feel free to reach out to us and put it on our radar, and we'll make sure that we cover it and we give it the we give it the attention it deserves. All right, Stone, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
No, man, it's clinic season. Well, I know you're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it as well. Next weekend being at Gillette for the Mass High School Coaches Association. Gary Doherty, Fred Kirsch, they do a hell of a job. Looking forward to that. And then we'll be in Newport the weekend after. It's a good time of year for us. It's not a ton of work, but it's a good kind of networking time. And I always enjoy having conversations and getting support from all the coaches from around New England these next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. I know you are as well.
Yeah, next week is the New England Coaches Clinic at Gillette Stadium. We'll be presenting our MIA award winners, our coaches and players of the year. We're going to make sure that they know that they could be there. And if they're there in person, we present them their award and we do a quick interview with them as well. That will be posted on our YouTube page and all our social media. And then, as Kevin said, the following weekend is the big New England Clinic down in Newport. Keith Kenyon and Kyle Archer and that crew do a great job with that clinic. Should be another really, really good clinic. Jason Candle will be the keynote speaker at that clinic on Friday night. And that's always a good time. I mean, both of these clinics have meant the world to me through the years, but that Newport clinic is near and dear to my heart. I've gone to that clinic for years. I've seen a lot of great speakers down there. It's always a highlight of the off-season calendar. So it should be good. Follow along as we'll have a bunch of interviews from both of those clinics while we attend them. So we should have some good content coming your way in the next couple of weeks. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you next week. Until then, peace.
See you.